So
Okay.
you
Um,
should be good.
well, I'm gonna hit it then.
Go
You
for it. Hit it,
ready?
man.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Cool.
I'm gonna look you up on here too, so I can.
Yes. So here we are.
What's up?
Hi, everyone. So this is a first time thing for me, and I'm happy to be here with my pal, Jonathan Hardesty, amazing
Glad to be.
painter, good friend, and so I was thinking with this whole quarantine thing where everyone's sitting at
Mhm.
home, it's a good thing to inspire each other and just have a
Totally.
nice talk about stuff about art.
Totally.
I don't know anything about this technology. This is the very first live stream I've ever done in my life, so probably everything will go wrong. But I'll just give it a try and just let me know if things are going crazy. I'm looking
Well,
up.
I see it. I see it live. I see it, so I
Okay,
think you're good.
cool,
I'll see.
cool.
I can turn my audio on real quick. Yeah, I think it's good, man.
Okay, cool.
I think you're good to go. Yeah.
Well,
And the good news is, like, technology wise, it's like, okay, yeah, you may need to catch up to streaming, but you're pretty awesome at art, so it's a good problem to have. It's good to have the like insane art skills and just you can learn the streaming later. It's better. You could be
better
like a
than the other
pro.
way around.
Yeah, you don't want to be a pro streamer and have subpar art skills.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So how
Oh,
are
oh
you?
yeah.
Are you
See,
are you
We're getting people. So yeah,
okay?
you're good. You're
Cool.
good to go, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hi
Go
everyone.
ahead. Sorry. Sorry. What
So
I
yeah, I was
interrupted you.
just asking, how are you? Are you still well and safe?
Yeah, yeah, we're doing good here. I'm only basically, I mean, I'm kind of sequestered in my studio a lot of the time. Anyways, you and I were talking about this. It's kind of like nothing's changed except our families are home more for us, for you and me. But but yeah, we're doing good. I've only really been around my parents and my family, like my kids and my wife, and so it's been interesting. Like we love it. We don't like some people are going crazy, we're fine. We're fine being, cooped up.
Yeah.
Maybe my wife at the if goes on for too long, she might feel,
Mm.
but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. My wife, she lost some clients because of this.
Hmm.
She's a wedding photographer, so
Yeah.
weddings are canceled and also the places where the weddings were held. If even if you would want to continue doing the wedding, you don't have a place to
Yeah.
go and people
Yeah.
can't come. So uh,
Right.
these
Right.
things are canceled. So, but for me, not much has changed yet. I think
Right.
if this will take a long time, everyone will
That's right.
have notice the effect of it. So,
That's right.
but
Yeah. I mean,
at the
like
moment,
if people don't. Oh, sorry. I'm interrupting you. Let me
that's
know
okay.
too. I do that all the. I'm really bad at
Go
that.
ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like I agree with you. Like it's like kind of down the line. I feel like, maybe we'll lose students, or maybe we like people that would normally buy paintings won't buy the paintings, or maybe the studio that wanted to hire you to do something now doesn't necessarily have the funding because they have to use it on something else, and so it does sort of like it's delayed for us. I think
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
delayed. Like right
yeah.
now, I actually have more work than I normally would
Mm.
because all my students and like certain people are home. Like people that I mentored, they're all home. They're just making art like 24/7. So
Yeah.
I'm having to help them. But we'll see it. We'll see it. It'll affect like you said. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all. I was saying the only thing that has changed is my son is at home right now,
Hmm.
and so for me
Hmm.
that's a good thing. And it's weird
Yeah.
to notice like the whole world around you is falling apart, but you're still on the
Yes.
safe island,
Right.
where nothing has changed much because I'm working at home all
Yeah.
the time anyway.
Right. Right. That's how I feel too. It's weird, man. It's weird. It's like so now I just can't go out to the store or like. But I didn't really do too much of that. Anyways, we're
Mm.
out in the country too here. Like there's a
Yeah.
farm back here and a farm right there. Like, so, we're kind of used to it just being quiet.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
it's
good.
kind of like, I don't know.
Well,
There's a guy that lives a little bit further down from me and I don't really know him. I try to wave to him. He doesn't really like to wave to people, I don't think. But he's got like a big barbed wire fence and he's got like a satellite dish looking thing. And I know he's probably got like secret tunnels under his house. And I mean, it's like a real deal, like military
whoa.
fence. And so I'm like, this guy's a prepper, he's a,
He's ready
he,
for Armageddon.
I bet you he's like, and I bet you he's like, He's like, I got this, you know.
Wow,
So
that's
it's funny,
crazy.
but yeah,
Yeah,
hey, everybody's saying hi. What's up,
yeah,
everybody? How you
yeah.
doing?
It's nice to see so many people showed up. Really cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
man.
what I thought, other than just have a conversation in general, which
Mm.
would probably be fine also, but
Yeah.
just to pick a topic. And
Mm,
I thought, confidence maybe a good thing, because the idea I had coming up with this was, everyone is afraid now. I see
mm,
people being afraid about all kinds of things, but within our art, artists have fears as well.
right.
And I thought, that might be a good thing to talk about, but I didn't want to call it fear because there's enough fear around. So
Right.
I called it
Yeah.
confidence. Actually, my
That's
wife
right.
came up with that idea. She comes up
That's
with
good.
with so many ideas people think I come up with, but
Same with
you know,
same with my wife. Same with
uh,
my wife.
but it's basically talking about the same thing, but from another perspective. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, I created this little poster to advertise this event,
Uh-huh.
and my initial idea was to take an illustration I already did and just use that. And then my wife, she said to me, just do a little drawing that's, specifically to for this. And I know how I am, so I know that if I do that, I do a drawing, and then I think, well, this is not good enough.
Right.
People are
Right.
going to see that actually I can't draw and I suck
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything. So and usually these things I can spend a day, working on
Right.
something to
Right.
make sure that it's perfect. And
Right.
this time I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do just a quick sketch, and it was really hard because uh, as an artist working for myself mostly, meaning I don't work with colleagues or anything. So I
Right.
learned to be my own worst critic.
Right.
And
Right.
and so
Totally.
I see everything that's wrong in that image, or that at
Hmm.
least that could be better, or that could
Yeah.
communicate better. And to leave it like that is really hard. I don't have much confidence, I think, when it comes to that, because I fear people will think of me, he's not that good, and things like that. So I thought that was a good one to start this
It is
talk
good.
with.
And you're also kind of heading in a direction you and I have been talking about it, like just where you're doing stuff that's a little different than what you've done in the past. And so I've been talking about that with my wife, actually, your paintings and stuff like that. And when I see them, and so you've been kind of courageously kind of moving in that direction as well. And it's interesting because I think that people a lot of times when they're first starting out in art, they'll see someone who is successful in one way, shape, or form, whatever it is, and they think that they don't feel that way anymore. That artist doesn't feel that way. That they just love their work and feel always like they're doing a great job. And I think it's the same. Like if you see a musician like performing for like a million people or whatever, or tens of thousands of people or whatever, you think, oh well, they're not nervous. No,
Mm.
no, they're probably
Yeah,
nervous.
yeah, yeah.
They just I mean, sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are. It's just they're just used to doing it. But so they get through it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important. It's good that you're saying that because I think it's important, especially for new students, to realize that that kind of doesn't go away. Like the whole idea of, I'm not, if you're not feeling satisfied with your art, that kind of doesn't really go away. And
Mm.
in some respects, like you get better at seeing what is good, and you start to then the people that are next to you, like I mean, at Lightbox, I'm sitting next to Craig Mullins. That's who was like, I was like, my name and Craig Mullins is hilarious because everybody would come over and look up at the sign, and then they look at me, they were like, oh, disappointing. So you have to. But then what's so funny is if Craig Mullin was there, he would talk about how horrible his work was or something. Like
Mm.
that's just how he is. Like he'd be like, well, I should paint more in oils like you or whatever. And I'd be like, dude, you're better than me in oils. And he just wouldn't,
Mm.
like so it's funny that way. And I think people that are new to art, they feel like they're the only ones that feel that way. A lot of times it's easy for them to
Mm.
feel like that they're the only ones that feel that way. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody does. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the only, for me at least, the only way to do it that makes sense is to look for that place where I can learn something new, or where I can discover or where I can challenge myself. Because
Right.
if I don't do that, that means I'm just repeating something I already
That's right.
know how to do. So
That's right.
that's not an option for me.
Right.
So
Right.
as a
Right.
result, of course, you will get into the position where you feel like, what is this? I don't know if
Right.
this is going to
Right.
work out.
Yes. Yeah.
What you mentioned, the things that I've been creating recently, uh, talking about confidence. It took me until now to actually do that. I think I uh, I became a character designer and
Hmm.
became successful in that. And for some reason, in my mind, I built the idea that I need, that everything I put online is kind of my
Hmm.
advertisement for my business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if I put a caricature or a portrait there, uh, then are they still going to know that I'm a character designer? Are they still going
Right.
to hire me? So
Right.
I kind of limited myself to doing stuff.
Right.
You know, when I was done with my job, I was still working for a client, but to get new clients. And now
Right.
and now
Right.
recently I thought, I've been limiting myself because I want to be in that place where I explore and just have fun and create my own world and my own vision. So
Right.
the work is changing because of that, and may not be character designs I'm posting now, but I'm having so much fun doing it and
Right.
exploring.
Right.
But at the same time, when you do that, you get into a place. Uh, it has two elements because on the one hand, you are doing what you love and you're kind of untouchable because it's
Right.
it's like like your voice. I could imitate your voice, but I just don't have your voice. I could
Right.
never
Right.
have your
Right.
voice, and it's the same
Right.
with art.
That's
Everything
right.
you draw is the result of everything you learned, everything
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
your motor skills and everything.
Totally.
So I could never be that. So going in that direction, that's really cool because you get into a place where you can express yourself and
Hmm.
you're truly you. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you are in uncharted territory because
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no example. I'm not
Right.
copying anyone. I'm not learning from anyone. I'm just discovering
That's right.
myself. So
That's
it's
right.
a really scary place to be at the same
Yeah.
time because you,
Yeah.
you just don't know. Every painting I'm doing is a mixture of those two feelings. Like, wow, this is cool. I'm creating a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And then like,
Right.
what is this? What am I doing? I should have taken a job. This is useless. So it's really that mixture of being
That's
really
hilarious.
confident and,
Right.
and, and really
Right.
like, what am I doing? So that's
I
crazy.
know. Well, I think my family, like my wife and probably my parents and people like that, when I do a painting that's sort of out there, they're like, "Why are you doing that? You should be." They probably think that more than I would. Like, you should be doing something for money, or you should, But it's
Mm,
hard. It's like as an artist, like it's hard to make people understand that aren't artists, like how you can't just like you can't like it's really hard to just go through the motions, like if you just like making money or whatever and you just want to do something to make money, if you could just do the same thing over and over again to make money, it's like that's one thing. But we don't we like the journey, we like the
mm.
you tell us to walk on a concrete path and it's the same path over and over, and we're just going to go insane. It's almost worse because it's like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, because it's like that there's more out there, but you can't do it. So it is there is that side of it. I always tell students to be very careful. Everybody that I've mentored, I've said be very careful before you jump into the pond. Like I said, because wherever you jump in the pond, you're sort of stuck there for a little bit. And I said, like I said, you can't just. So I said, a lot of times people are in such a rush to make money from their art that they don't think about the long term. So like let's say that somebody puts something up on Instagram and it's like a unicorn or whatever. They draw a unicorn and everyone's like, I love that. Then they draw another unicorn, right? And everyone's like, I love that. So then they become the unicorn artist, and
Mm.
then all of a sudden they're pumping out these unicorn drawings so that they can make just this little bit of money on Instagram, and they feel really good because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm making money off my art, and it's a good thing, it's not a bad thing. But then all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to paint, I don't want to draw unicorns anymore, and
Mm.
everybody goes, well, we don't want anything to do with you then. And it's like, whoa, well, what am I supposed,
Yeah.
I guess I got to keep drawing unicorns. And then fast forward like 5 years, and this person's like, I never want to see another horse or unicorn,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like, and it can become this trap for you. So, so you have to. I think there's like, and it's one of the things that you were talking about. Like, you have to be brave in multiple areas. You have to be confident in multiple areas. Like, you have to be willing to take a financial hit, perhaps, maybe not. But I mean, like I said, your skill set's so good. Pretty much whatever you can monetize. Like, once you get to a certain point where you're good, like you are, you can monetize whatever direction you go in. Like, you'll be able to monetize that in some way, shape, or form. Like, it might not make as much as you would make doing something else, but I feel like for you to put on like a gallery show, yeah, like, I mean, 100%, man. Like, you could totally do that and sell the paintings.
I'm making notes. Okay.
Oh, well, I really believe that, honestly. And you actually might make quite a bit of money off your painting. Like, you might be surprised, but like, and you might be like, oh, I'm just gonna do this, and then all of a sudden the gallery's like calling you every day, and you're like, I want to make characters. But it's funny because I've dealt with that throughout my career too. Like, I remember, like, early on, and I always tell students, like, you got to be a little bit rebellious. Like, I like a little bit of rebellion. Like, when they tell me I'm not going to do exactly what you said, I did this instead. I like that because like, galleries early on would tell me, they'd say, we want this kind of painting and we want this, and you have to paint small. I remember this one gallery said, you got to paint small, and I was like, no, I'm painting big. And they were like, well, we can't sell it. And I was like, well, we'll see. And I mean, I was in a tiny house. It was like only an 8-foot ceiling, and the painting was like 8 feet tall or 7 feet tall. But I made it like the exact, like, whatever I could get through the door to get it out of the room. I was like, that's the size I made it. So, and I just painted this huge painting of my wife. Well, it was there in the gallery for like 8 or 9 months, but it sold. And
That's cool.
so, yeah. And so it's really funny. And another one told me, you can't paint skulls. Like, people don't like skulls. They don't want to hang skulls in their house. And I was like, yeah, but I found the skull. Like, my friend gave me the skull. It was from her farm. And I was like, it's really good painting. And they were like, nah, we don't want it. And I said, well, let me just bring it by. So I brought it by, and they took it and they sat it up against the wall, and someone walked in and they saw it, and it was sitting up against the wall, and they're like, I want that painting. Don't put it up for sale.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, it's just,
Vincent van Gogh did a skull. I think people would want to have that painting. It's just nonsense. I had that when I did book covers also. The publishers would tell me, don't do a green cover because green covers don't sell. And then someone does a green book cover for Harry Potter, and then suddenly everyone wants to have a green cover.
Exactly.
It's just it doesn't have to do with the color or the subject.
That's exactly right. And it's like, okay, well, if everybody's doing orange, why wouldn't you do green? Like, why
exactly,
would you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, it's like it stands out.
Yeah.
So it's just funny. It's just really funny. And it's the trickiest part, I think, about being an artist is when you have to work with non-artists as well. Like, when your art director, or when the person that's getting a commission, or the gallery or whatever, like, gallery owners, people think that they're like art, like they do like art, but they're not artists, like, not at all. And to be honest, like, I don't really want an artist in there. Like, I want a business person, I want somebody that's going to sell the painting. And so there's that balance, but it is interesting because you have to deal with non-artists, and so it's like a marketing team making that decision for you. It's not like somebody with a vision. It's like them saying, look, we have this data. We've compiled all this data from every book that's been sold in the past 6 years, and these are the trends, and these are the and which is very valid and very true. But it's also like, it takes an artist to see beyond that and say, yeah, but look at this. And sometimes people can't see it. It's tricky.
So how does it work with a gallery? Do they then tell you, we want this subject? Could you make several paintings with this subject, or this size, or these colors? Or do they have an influence in that, like an editor with someone who writes a book?
Yes, it depends on the gallery. Like, some galleries do. Like, some galleries are just like, I think it depends on how good you are too. And I was never good enough to the point to where I could just demand anything, But different galleries will have different levels, or try to exhibit different levels of control. So yeah, I mean, I think, like, see, that's the beauty of what you're doing. I think is you're having this series of paintings, and you're exploring and stuff like that. I think that would naturally be a show that would come out of that. I mean, would you ever want to do that, or do you just not want to like monetize it or exhibit it at all? Do you feel like that?
Well, it would have to be the result of the fact that I'm doing this. At the moment, I just want to create this just for me,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for
yeah,
the,
yeah,
for the
yeah,
fun of it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if at a
yeah.
certain point I have a pile of paintings that I could exhibit, then that's it. But I don't want to, like you mentioned, I don't want to think like people like orange, so I'm going to do orange paintings, or I'm going to do rabbits because people
Right,
like rabbits. I don't want to think like
right,
that. I want to focus
right.
on what really inspires me, and
Mm,
it's really about my relationship um, with the world, actually. How I observe what I think. When we look around us, we interpret immediately. That's when you start your first drawing class, that's what people have to learn. You don't draw
yeah,
what you know, but you
right,
draw what you see. But
right.
that we interpret all the time. And what I like is how when you take things apart, you don't draw every detail of a portrait, but you leave out stuff. People interpret that, so you can play with that, or you can make it a different color, or put a texture on top of it, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so much possibilities there. So
Yeah,
that's really where I am now, and I love to explore that.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because people sometimes it comes out of it looks like it's coming out of left field for people. Like it looks like it's something that's strange that you're doing, but it really, like you said, is just you have an idea and you're pushing that to see how far it would go. I actually, a friend of mine, her daughter is definitely really artistic. So I said to her one day, I said, "Listen," I said, "if she says anything that seems morbid or seems weird, or if she's, I said, don't worry about it." I said, "Look," I said, "as artists, we have to kind of figure out how everything works." I said, "So if you're disgusted by an image, we're kind of interested by that, like why."
Mm.
And if you think something's beautiful, but it isn't necessarily seen that way, like we're interested in that, and we want to figure out why,
Yeah, yeah.
why that happens. It's kind of like, and that's what you're saying, like in your paintings, you're exploring all that, and that's the cool part. So for a lot of people, it looks like you're doing something that's totally weird or just like not related to what you've done, but you're just
Mm.
experimenting, like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're just trying stuff, and that's what I mean. That's the cool part. I mean, I don't know. That's we get to learn for a living. We get to like study things for a living, and but did you feel like that initially with your characters, and then it just got old? Like, did you feel like you were studying like people's behavior? Like when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
creating characters,
Oh,
and then it
absolutely.
just kind of got old, or became like how did that shift from when you first started?
What do you mean? Did it get old?
Like did you feel like so like now you have to do characters for your living, and it feels a little bit more forced or feels a little bit more like now you're feeling more free like with the paintings that you're doing, but was there a time when you did characters where that was like the freeing thing like you felt right now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
and
or
I,
do you still feel that way?
yeah, I can
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
go back and forth into
right,
it's a different thing.
yeah,
But when when it's up to me at the moment, I just want to paint. So it's and
right,
these things
right.
always they move
Yeah,
in waves with me. So
yeah,
in
yeah,
in a
yeah,
few
yeah, yeah.
months from now, probably it will be something else again. I like sculpting, or I did ZBrush a while ago. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
really
nice, nice.
whatever interests me. But but painting is really, I think that's a difference that I kept myself from doing it for so long. So now, and I feel really that's how I started, and it feels like I'm getting in touch again
Nice.
with the boy
Yeah.
I was when I was just in art school, and painting. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it feels like it might last a little longer.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I love that. Like that's why like a lot of times if I get to sketch or draw or whatever, like I just like have pages of just weird stuff. Like I don't even know what it is. It's just like because I see my kids and when they draw, like my son's right over here. He's there. When my kids draw, they just have that freedom. They have that freedom and they don't have the technical side,
Hmm.
but they're also not burdened by that technical side either. And so they just I told them all to make a story the other day, and they all made these stories, and they were really good, and it was really interesting to see. But I like how they function, where it's just pure joy,
Yeah,
and
and how old is your son?
he's 10, and my
Okay.
daughter's 8, and Pip is 3.
Okay,
So yeah,
my son is 11, and with a lot of people, they stop drawing at a certain age.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think maybe it
it's true.
even has to do with confidence.
Hmm.
I remember vividly when I was, when I was his age, I would bring friends home and after school, and we would sit down at the table and we would draw, and then I went to high school and I would do the same thing, but people, they didn't want to join me anymore. I was the only one still doing it, and I
Interesting.
I I just wonder because when I look at my son when he draws, he still has that, uh, he's not judging himself at all. He's just
Right,
going into
right.
it, drawing, and
Yeah,
he created this little book now with. It's not a comic strip, but it's every page is a level of a computer game, and then you have to turn the page around and there it gives instructions what you have to do, and then
that's
you go to the
awesome.
next level, that's the next page,
That's
and
awesome.
it's just so funny. But I just wonder, when will that point
Hmm.
be there when he will he be the one who keeps drawing or will
Right.
he
I
stop,
know. I know, right? It's funny, isn't it? I feel like the creativity gets beat out of us. Like my kids, I try to, like, when they stop and say, "Look at this bug. Look how cool this is and look how, amazing this is." I try to just stop and say, "Oh yeah, let me look. I've seen that bug a bunch, but let's look at it again." And actually I told somebody that I really feel like having kids, and you probably feel the same way, having kids sort of gives you fresh eyes again for the world. Like they kind of teach you how to look at things the right way again. So
Yeah.
oh, sorry, my phone is, let me get rid of it. You hear my ring? Can you hear my ring? It's like ring ring. It's so on the nose. But um oh, some people are saying a bunch of stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, let's have a look. I was
Okay, let's
also,
see.
when you mentioned the creativity is beat out of us, I think
Yeah.
uh, people stop drawing, but in schools, at least here in the Netherlands, like drawing, painting, making music, doing theater,
Mm-hmm.
it does exist in schools, but it's not at all like you have to learn math or science or
Right.
those are the things you have to learn because you have to get a job and make a living,
Right.
but
Right.
to develop as a person because all these people they're when ask them can you draw something, they're afraid to even draw, and
Right.
they're
Yeah.
not taught to be creative and express themselves that way, and I
Yeah, it's
think I
interesting.
think that's a shame because I
Hmm.
don't think it's something special. It's just something some people develop more than others, and of
Right.
course, like everything, if I would take on a sport, some people if I would start playing tennis, there are people who
Yeah.
are already better than I when we start
Right.
because it's just their physique or
Right.
they're a certain talent maybe, but still, if I start, I don't know how good I will become if I don't try, and
That's right.
it's something that I think is an important thing because it's a different way of expressing yourself, looking at the world, thinking visually.
Right.
It's a language. I always find it interesting when you see people, uh, I think we discussed this sometime. When people see a painting and they say, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It looks like a photo." And then
Right.
when they see a beautiful photograph, they say, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It looks like a painting," because that's their only frame of reference. They can't
Right.
talk about composition or color or
Right.
values
Right.
or
Yeah.
the subject matter. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
That's
that,
interesting.
yeah.
It's so true too. It's so true. 100%. That's like what everybody says. And it's really, they don't realize that it's like insulting to say to an artist, like, "This is great. It looks like a photo."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, great. I could have just taken a photo.
Yeah,
Thanks."
exactly. By the way, you mentioned a little earlier you did the painting that could just fit in your house.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember the French painter, I think it was Cézanne, who had what do you call that? A vertical hole made in his house, so he
Oh,
could
okay.
put very large paintings in and out.
Nice. And get them out.
Yeah,
That's genius,
yeah,
actually.
that's really cool.
That's
Like
funny.
like a mailbox or something for painting.
Right, right. And like a little trap door or something, he just pushes it out. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
That's a good idea. I might have to build that into my studio if I build another one.
so
Oh,
let's see.
somebody's
People have
Star
questions.
Star Ogre's telling me to shut up. So that's good. We'll let Vouter talk more. I'm a talk I'm a talker too, so that's 100% valid. 100% valid.
So if people have questions, put them in there. Then we can talk about what, or if you wanna join the conversation, please
Oh yeah,
be a part of
Dustin
it.
was. I know Dustin. He was saying. He was saying that he says I kind of want to teach third graders instead of high school kids so he can be inspired. He said they have the best imagination and confidence.
Mm.
Like, and 12 or 13 is when you lose the confidence because they can't make things look real. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm seeing my kids like Sam is 10, so he'll draw something and he'll show it to me. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. And then he'll say, yeah, but like he looks at my drawings or whatever and my paintings, and then he'll be like, yeah, but it's not. And I'm like, so what? Who cares? Just
Yeah.
have fun with it or whatever. But it starts to set in that lack of confidence
Mm.
in that particular area, and it's interesting because like you said, I think if they were to focus more, I think people often they ditch art in school because they think it's not like you can't make money off of it or things like that. I don't think most people would say that it's not important for society to have art, but I think they just don't know really what to do with it, I think. But
Well, especially now, everyone's sitting at home. Just imagine
yeah.
there is no Netflix, there is no music, there are no movies,
Oh
nothing,
man.
no books.
Oh, so
That's
true. So
those are
true.
so important.
Well, it is funny to me because basically every moment that people aren't working, they usually are doing something artistic. I mean, they're related in some way, shape, or form. If they're working out, they're like, "Oh, I have music," Or if they're, they put things around their house, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think creativity, you don't have to paint to be creative. Even a
That's right.
plumber can be creative in
That's
finding ways
exactly
how
right.
to fix your tap or.
That's exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say is like, I think if they were to prioritize it a bit more, um, in school, I think it would be much better. Like you'd have more problem solvers. Like people would
Yeah,
problem solve better, and they would like think about things in a different way.
exactly.
It's like if you have a game and there's a puzzle in the game or something. Artists are like, oh yeah, like just let me go outside the room and look over here, and that's probably where it is. And then everyone else is like stuck in that room, like trying to figure out the puzzle, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're problem solvers. That's we have to think about things in a different way every time, so we're used to that. So,
Yeah, well, I
um,
remember when I was in high school and in physics class, they would teach us a formula for, how to when a ball falls, and you have to
yeah,
calculate things. And I was always amazed, because I thought, the people who discovered this, they just took a ball and, dropped it and looked at what happened and tried to think,
right,
okay, how can I put
yeah,
that into a formula or anything. And they didn't teach
right,
us how to think like that. They just gave us the formula, and we had to do, these calculations. And I thought, you know, I just didn't get it. Why they didn't? Well, they didn't teach me
that's right,
the
that's right,
wonder,
that's
the
right,
curiosity of
that's right,
why that is so cool. So
exactly. Exactly. If they would have said when I was like in school, if they would have said, okay, we're going to build two catapults and like whoever destroys the other person's catapult, like, they win and you have to use math to make it or whatever. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I would have been studying that book like every,
exactly, yeah.
I would have gone home
That's
and I would have been like,
probably
this,
the kind of thinking why people came up with these formulas in the first place. They just
exactly.
wanted to know how it worked.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's experiencing things and learning about the world and like, yeah, I really feel like artists, like the best artists are usually ones that don't have a problem learning about anything really, like are interested. They're just kind of interested in life. I feel like interested in, I don't care if somebody's quilting or if they're, fixing a car, if they're doing, I'm always interested because, and it always ends up relating to what I've already learned artistically or whatever. It ends up really relating and being making sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting that way. But somebody was saying, Vicho was saying, um, that's exactly the problem with lots of people today. They either don't do things because they don't know how, or they're always asking how to do stuff instead of learning themselves.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
true.
They're not
Yeah.
interested. Yeah. Do you think the influence of realistic graphics in video games also influences the confidence? That's interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the more art is going up in quality, I think in terms of realism, like it's going up. I mean, would you agree with that, Valder? Would you say
You
that?
mean because it's technically so high standard, you feel
Yes.
like you're
Yeah.
no good because you can't do it?
Right.
Yeah. I,
Whether you're doing 3D or whether you're doing 2D or whether I mean it's kind of like if you look at the comics from like the 50s, they're not good.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
comic art is not very I mean some of it's great, but it was great for the time and they didn't have access to all the knowledge that we have now
Yeah.
and stuff like that too, and we're probably shunned by the fine artists, but
I can
it's
imagine that it's how do you say that? Your confidence goes down when you see that. But I think that really has to do with thinking of a step too big to take for you. When
mm,
you learn, you want to
mm,
have these moments of success. You take the next step and you succeed. You have done something that you couldn't do before, but it was
right.
within reach. And if you
Yeah.
take a step that's too big, all you will only fail and fail again because it's
Yep.
just something that you can't do yet. And
Yeah. Yes.
you,
Yeah.
you just have to take little steps. But sometimes we're focused so much on the end result that it feels like it's impossible to do. But
Right.
those people who are creating that art, they didn't start doing that. They
That's right.
started with kids' drawings as well.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's true. I think maybe not the realism in games or things like that, but I think actually you can tell me if you agree with this, but like I think like the way that our society is structured around sort of little blurbs, like we'll just see amazing art and that's it. Like we don't see it in process, we don't see, all the other parts of that person's career. We just see it come up on our Instagram feed or we just see like whatever for 30 seconds and it's like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's like unreal." And then you're like, I can't do that, and then that's it, and then it's gone. And so it's very easy to not know the backstory, like you said.
That's right.
Like somebody comes on a singing show or something, and all of a sudden they're just amazing, and it's like, well, then you start digging into their story, and it's like, well, for the past 16 years they've sat on their piano and like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
sang each note like their parents were musicians, like this and that, like I mean, you just find out all this stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah, and they're like, yeah, I never. They're like, I would go to school and then I'd come home and sing, and that was all I did, and so, you start realizing, okay, this is something, it's a skill, like you said earlier,
Yeah,
it's a skill
yeah.
that can be learned,
And then also you don't have to be able to do everything, when you say Craig Mullins, there are elements of what he does that I would
That's
love to
right.
be able to do, but there are
Right.
some things that he is interested in that I'm not interested in.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And then
Totally.
also I was thinking a moment ago, people learn in different ways. They say you have to learn the rules to break the rules, and for
Hmm.
me, I don't think there are rules to begin with,
Hmm.
but people learn in different ways. So some people they really like to have these principles and these step-by-step techniques and learn those first, and
Hmm.
then start
Right.
playing with that. And
Right.
others, they want to be free from the very beginning and
Yeah.
explore
Yeah.
and find out.
Yeah.
And like there are people who can become teachers because they consciously know every step they're doing, and other people, they are great
Right.
artists, but they just do what they know it internally, but they can't
Right.
verbalize it.
Right.
So
Right.
I play basketball, and I love that feeling where then you pass the ball and you do it behind the head, but that's this little moment where you don't think, your body
That's
kind of
right.
does it for you. It's that flow moment. You have that in painting too, where you look at
Yeah.
the model and you just put the brush down, and
Hmm.
it's like you feel that that's the
That's right.
right brushstroke, and
That's
that
right.
but that's a result of putting in all the all the hours of drawing and failing, and until that
That's right.
becomes such a part of you where it becomes natural. But it's not like there is a technique and you need to learn that, and once you can do it, you have to,
Right.
it's always your technique. Even
That's right.
walking, when we learn how to walk, when
Right.
animators know this, when you see people
Yeah.
walk, everyone has a different way of walking
Hmm.
because we have different bodies, but also because we
Right.
have learned in a
That's
different
right.
way, specifically how to balance ourselves, and how to,
Sure.
some put their feet down like this, some like this, there are
Right.
differences. So,
Yeah.
and it's the
Yeah.
same with drawing. The way you hold your pencil already gives a different mark on the paper than the way I
That's
do.
right.
So
That's right.
you
That's right.
can't really compare yourself to someone
Yeah.
else.
And that actually, in the idea of confidence, actually should be something that gives you guys confidence is the fact that like there's no one like you. And it's funny, like I have students like they always ask me, they're like, "Well, what do I do to like develop my style?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And I'm like, "You don't need to do anything." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Just make good art. Like just
Hmm.
like really try to make the best art." I'm like, "And the rest will be fine." I was like, "If the only way it'll go bad for you is if you start trying to be someone else." I
Yeah.
said, "If you just find out who you are and then you are that person." I said, as assuming you're not a horrible person, I said, like, well, even then, people will still probably appreciate it in some aspect. But like, but I said, you could just be who you are, and that's going to be unique because you are not like anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're living your life and you're just trying to copy someone else, then and you don't have confidence in who you are, then that will rear its head in a bad way because you'll
Hmm.
just be a bad version of that person. But it's like you said, there's no, for every single rule that you have, like, I'll tell students, look, this is what you kind of want to do with values and edges and all this stuff. But it's like, but what at a certain point, it's like, all right, let's start breaking the rules because, like, cause you have to, because, and I didn't get that when I was training because it was all
Hmm.
very classical. And so it was all very like regimented, and they didn't think outside the box.
Hmm.
So when I would say, I remember saying one time, like when I was just learning to draw, I said to them, I said, well, like my charcoal doesn't get as dark as what I see in reality. And I said, so what do I do? I was like, because, and I was basically coming to the realization that I was like, I can't draw reality. Like it's not possible. Like if I draw a
Yeah.
cave or I draw the sun or whatever, it's not the same, So I have to make some sort of sacrifice at some point. And they basically just told me, well, just use the darkest thing you have. And like they didn't really answer the question,
Okay.
yeah, which is funny. So, and I don't think they knew. I don't think they were taught, and
Hmm.
they knew. It wasn't like they were trying to just
Hmm.
keep it from me or something. But then I started to realize I was like, that's the whole, like it has to be filtered through me. It has to be
Yeah.
filtered
Yeah.
through my decisions, and that's what makes it interesting. And that's like a freedom, especially for a classical painter. It's like, oh my gosh, like I can change this. I remember William Whitaker said to me, I think he died about 4 years ago. He was a mentor to so many people. Super cool guy, great painter. I mean, just a phenomenal painter. And he was totally, when he was at the beginning part of his career, I think it was like in the 80s mainly, like 70s and 80s, I think. And he just got trashed by modern artists. Like they just hated his work. And he just had, like he said, he was always surprised at how the artists my age would just plow forward doing representationalism. He just couldn't believe it. But he said to me one time, I was in a workshop, and I said, this looks weird. I said, what do I do about this? Because something looked weird on the model, like it was just the angle or something.
Hmm.
He goes, John, he goes, how long did you train? I said, like 3.5 years. He goes, just change it. And I said, I guess I can. And he goes, yeah, you can. He goes, just make it up or do something different. Make it look good. He goes, make it look good. I was like, it was like a light bulb moment for me,
Wow.
and I had never been given permission to do that. And then I
Mm.
probably went off the deep end with my mom would probably say when I give her
That's
a
cool.
painting of some weird creature like, pus coming out or something. My mom's like, can't you just paint something nice?
I recently read somewhere that the Russian painter Ilya Repin,
Oh
He
yeah.
he uh,
Hmm.
he wasn't allowed to go in the Tretyakov Museum with his paint box because he would keep changing his paintings. So
That's
maybe he wasn't confident either.
right. Are you kidding me?
No, I
Seriously?
read it. I don't know if it's true, but
It's
I
probably
read.
true. His paintings are amazing. It's probably
Mm.
true.
Let's go over some questions. So Dustin says, do you guys ever get burned out doing schoolism critiques? I'm teaching high school virtually with coronavirus right now, and critique after critique burns me out. Well, I can't imagine if you have coronavirus, then that must be hard. Um, to me, I don't get burned out doing that. Uh, I I can't, if anything, gets me close towards burnout, it's really probably lack of confidence. It's me being
Mm,
stressed out, when I have to do work for studios, I want to make sure, working remote, I want to make sure they know that I put every hour of my time in
right.
there.
Right.
And, you can't see that from a drawing. Sometimes a quick
Right.
sketch is
Yeah.
just what they need, and they maybe are happy with just that sketch, and how to balance quality and quantity. I think that's difficult because I really want to do my best for them. But since they're not here to look, I uh, I'm likely to do too much, and because of that, other things I have to do, I get in time problems.
Right.
So and then I get
Right.
stressed. So that's
Yeah.
a problem for me, and I just need to learn to relax a little more. But it's not that the schoolism critiques themselves or anything. I actually really
Yeah.
enjoy doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get too, I mean, I think like there's always, I mean, because I've been teaching for a while. I love teaching. I've purposefully made it a part of my career, like to teach. Like I just, I've always wanted it to be there. So I really like it. It's a part of me. So I don't get too burnt out with it. I mean, sometimes if you're only teaching like new students all the time, you're saying the same thing over and over again. And so it can like from certain times feel like Groundhog Day, sort of, you know,
Like
you know,
everyone's experiencing right now.
Right, right, right. Exactly, exactly. I mean, I would say like there are times when it definitely like does feel like that. But the thing about it is, I truly, and I know you're the same. I really like it,
Yeah.
and I really like talking about it. It's kind of like my wife. It's like, yeah, I fight with her sometimes, but I like genuinely really like her, and I like being around her. It's like and so it's not like I'm gonna get to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm just so burnt out on my wife. Like, that doesn't really
Mm,
happen because,
yeah.
like, I get mad at her, and she gets mad at me or whatever. We get annoyed with each other or something, but I don't get burnt out on her. Like, I could be on an island with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, in that sense, like I said, we still get annoyed, and it's not like perfect or whatever. But I feel like that with art too. Like I could, like how many times have we talked about art? But it's like we could sit there and talk about it for like you and I could sit around like a fireplace with tea or something and like talk about art for like 40 hours. We could make everyone miserable in our families. Like,
Yeah, well, my wife is really happy I'm doing this because she always says, talk to someone else. I'm always. Well, I actually need to take this moment to really put her
that's
on a
really
on a pedestal because she told me today like you're doing this live stream and people are going to think it's amazing, but they don't know how stressed out you were and you're taking that out on me and so
that's right.
it's
That's
really
right.
her that
That's
because of
right.
her I am sitting here because
That's
she's
right.
helping me all the time, so I just want to make
Totally.
sure that people know that.
Well, dude, it's so funny. It's the same with my wife, and it's amazing how I can totally see how you'll have like yeah, like I'll see sometimes our presidents like over the past like 20 years or whatever, and like the first lady's not saying anything. She's out there, she's not saying, and I'm like, you're not fooling me. I'm like, you're not fooling me. Like there's like whole conversations about what's happening
Mm,
in the world that is dictated by what she's saying. And it's the same. It's totally the same. Like my wife throughout my whole career has there have been so many times that I've said I can't do this, and like I don't know if I can do this or should I, she's like, you can do it. I mean, my wife was there from the beginning saying I could do it, you can do it, you can do
mm,
it. And then she would also come down and say, you're not being true to yourself, or you're not. This paint, like, what's your deal? Like, this painting is technically horrible, and like this isn't like you. What are you doing?
Mm.
Don't start settling for garbage or whatever. I mean, like I love it. It's like so many great, and you can't really tell that to someone else because it just happens on a daily basis, like you said. And they do get the brunt of the weird. We're weird. Like, artists are weird. Like, we just, we're hard to deal with sometimes. I think artists are hard to deal with a little bit. For non-artists, it's hard to understand it. And my wife's definitely like much more analytical, and so for her, it doesn't, like, I don't really have too many patterns of behavior. It's just like, I don't know if are you like that too? Like, I do some things the same, like my morning routine and stuff, but the way that I respond, or like the way that I act, or like let's say she wants to get me something at like the store or something, she'll have no idea what I would particularly want that day or something. She would say, like, what do you like?
No, no, I'm not like that at all.
Okay.
For me, it feels like I'm trying to organize everything that I don't want to spend my energy on, just,
Gotcha.
like a fixed structure, so I can be creative within my art.
Gotcha. So that is like a springboard for you, like the structure and the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I've had to find my way to that. So I'm more of like I've had to see the productivity side of that, and I've had to move towards that. And it looks like you'd have to just loosen up. That's why we're good friends. That's why we hang out with each other. You can help me get my act together. I can help you loosen up a bit.
That's good. That's good. Let's see. Karen, any tips on a late bloomer not to get too intimidated, especially if they come on Instagram or ArtStation? It feels like there are so many people with great art and there's no space to do something new. Well, to me, it sounds like, let's say if you would shut your computer down and you're there with your sketchbook,
Right.
I always think, you can't control that, you suddenly become this master artist from one moment to the next. But right now, you can't just have fun creating art. And that doesn't change, because it doesn't change at what level you are. There are always other artists that you can look at that can do
That's right.
things that you feel like you can never do. It just doesn't
Right.
change. And no matter how good you are, it's just you. And the thing is, yourself so well. So when you see your own work, it's like, yeah, I know that. That's why I'm always looking for that next thing, the thing where I can surprise myself. And
Right.
and so it doesn't matter. 20 years ago it was the exact same feeling. Like, there are people so much better than I am, and now
Right.
it's still the same. So, and for some reason, what we do is we look at others and we see that as a fixed thing. Like,
Right.
this
Right.
is an artist and he has made it, or he's there, but he's probably just having the same thoughts you have.
That's
And
right.
and if it's too intimidating for you, maybe just wait a little bit. I don't know if that's good advice, actually. Putting your art,
Could be.
but at least
Yeah.
not to put yourself in the situation where you compare it, because that's really killing you, because that kills your freedom to explore and to have, if you have the sketchbook, that sketchbook, make it your own sketchbook where
Yeah.
you don't share it with anyone, and so it allows you to to have drawings that are absolutely shit, and no one can see it, but there
Right.
might be an experiment where you learn something.
That's
And
right.
if you're focused on creating art that's so good, then you
That's
won't
it.
allow yourself to do those experiments. So for me, having a sketchbook wasn't really a good thing, because I was trying to create this beautiful book, because it's already, and I had this beautiful cover, so I already had this beautiful book with no drawings in it. And so I was afraid to draw in
Right.
it. So then I thought,
Right.
I'll have a sketchbook where I can tear out pages and you can't even see it. So I don't have to explain to anyone why,
Right.
and it's silly, because I feel like I should be wiser than that, but it's just how it works. So I just
But it's natural. I think that's like natural for people to feel that way. I mean, I think it really is like that. I mean, yeah, well, I actually started posting, like I started this on conceptart.org, I my name on there was Mind Candy Man. I just started posting a bunch of stuff, and that's when I first became an artist. I called it like the journey of an absolute rookie, and I just started posting everything, and it was all awful. It
Mm.
was all awful. I mean, it was very, very bad. I knew it was. I was a late bloomer. I started at, I mean, late. It's still not late to me, but like late to everybody else. It was 22 or whatever. So, but I just started posting everything, and the reason I posted was just to give myself a something to achieve. So I thought, okay, I didn't post anything today. Like it was sort of like a diary or something, like, and keeping track of that. And, nobody responded. Nobody cared about it.
Mm.
Nobody. And then all of a sudden it was like this massive thing. And, and then I started getting better. And then all of a sudden people were like, holy crap, this guy's going to keep going. And then I kept going, and it was like, it became a bigger thing. And so, it's funny because I always laugh because I always say like that thread, I mean, it got so many views and stuff like that. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I was like a really great artist. It really just was, I was so bad before that when they saw that, they just saw me just not stopping.
Well, I think
And I think
people
that's the,
like to see the journey, not so much
right,
the end result of how great you are, but
right,
to see you, and also to see that you're human. Some drawings are
right.
better than others, and
That's
you
right.
fail sometimes, you have success
That's
sometimes, but
right.
they love to be part of your journey, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had paintings on there, Valerie, you laugh at this, where I like painted a portrait, and then on the head I'd be like, I hate painting, like, or I hate portraits or something like that, or like stupid face or something like I would just draw over top because it was like I was so like I would get so mad because what was in my head what couldn't come out.
Mm.
And so yeah, I mean the whole posting thing. I agree with you. Like if you feel like you don't definitely don't have to post like for sure, but if you do, I mean, I what I always tell people is fall in love with the work, like fall in love with the
Yes.
journey, fall in love with the grind, and that's what you like. When I finish a painting, I don't even care. Like sell it, trash it, whatever. You're the same. I know you're the same. It's like you moved on. It's like you want to learn something, and you learned it, and now let's learn something else. So once you start to have that mentality, as opposed to like I did this one good painting, I'm going to hang on this
Hmm.
forever because this is the one that makes me feel like an art. It's like
Mm.
no, you are an artist. Like if you're pursuing it and you're moving forward. And what he said, I want to go back to what you said, Valder, because that was like super good and really to the point. Like if you are drawing based on so the way you will be perceived, or painting based on the way you will be perceived by other people, you miss out on the learning opportunities.
Mm.
Like that is like if you're painting solely based on that, or drawing like that is that's really good. You guys got to write that one down. That's really true. It's true. I'm serious. Like that's so good because that is really true. Like you miss out on, it's like the forest for the trees kind of a thing. You forget
Well,
why you're making
it's
art.
dangerous too because I enjoy this now so much that I feel like turning down everything that comes my way. Like,
I know.
it's really
That's
addictive. Oh,
funny.
this is so
It's
much
so funny.
fun.
I know it's so funny, man. It's like musicians though. It's the same. Like you'll see musicians like they get signed by like I think it was this is kind of funny coming from it, but I think it was John Mayer, who's definitely like a pop artist and stuff like that. But then I think he's released some albums that are just straight blues, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hardly
That's
any
right.
singing and stuff like that. And I heard him talking about it, and he said, "Look, he said this is the way it works." He said, "I go to and play a show, a live show." He goes, "I know what they want." He said, "I play some stuff for them," and he goes, "And then I play some things for me." And he says, and I tell him that in the show. This song's for me. It's not for you. You know what I mean? Like and then he just starts playing the stuff. He starts jamming with the band and starts doing, and just doing trying new things, learning, growing, like
Yeah.
same thing. And so there really is. I think you have to, like you said, you have to balance that. It's always tricky to balance
Mm.
that. But like I said, the good news is that once you're as good as Vouter, you can go into a different direction and it's still really good. You can still sell it. So that's the goal for all of us.
Let's see. Um, I think it was Dustin who I was just saying that he is. I thought he had corona. He doesn't have. He's just working from home. I think I missed that one. Um,
Yeah, let me see. I don't. Oh, you don't like the process? That's interesting that Jacob was saying he doesn't like the process very much. It's a struggle. Yeah, I mean, I identify a little bit with that. I understand. Like, sometimes the process can be a struggle. I think, I think though, like it's kind of it. The more you do it, I think the better, or the more you'll feel maybe differently about it. Like I see it with exercise, right? So you're like finding your weaknesses and then you're targeting those weaknesses, and you like the more you do that and the more you kind of consciously try to target the weaknesses, or do something that makes you uncomfortable, like you said, the more you start doing that, you really do kind of get addicted to it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
but it takes a while. It's like you see people running and they're just making themselves, like pushing themselves to like this next level. It's like, why are they doing that? People ask them, why are they doing that? But once you start doing it, you're like, oh, I could kind of, why they're doing
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Because
Recently, I heard, I think it was a podcast or with Nicholas Uribe, and he
oh yeah,
said
yeah,
if you're painting and it's easy, you're not doing it right.
right, right, or you're not right, or you're doing the same thing you've done a bajillion
Yeah, yeah.
times, and that's the hard part with gallery work, man. Like they're very like they want the same, they want 500 of the same thing,
Mm.
and they want the same barn, the same sheep, or the same like horse, or whatever. Like it's just they find something that works and they're like, brand it, make
Mm.
prints of it, like like that's, and I mean you can't blame them. They got to pay for their rent and all that, but it's just
Yeah, I
man,
think that's
kills
what
me.
I really like about the character design process, because I get hired at the beginning of a movie where so much is still blue sky. So what they
Yeah,
ask of me is something that's really natural for me, because I always think like, or we could do it like this, or maybe like this, or like this. When I was doing children's books, that was really a problem for me, because I loved the process of coming up with the ideas and the storyboard and the color keys and the character designs, and
right.
then I had everything in place, and then I had to create the illustrations, and it was so hard for me, because it wasn't any fun, because
Right,
everything was or I and while I was doing that, I was still thinking, oh, but I could do it like this, but I
right,
can't do it now because I already have 6 pages and
right.
it needs to be
That's right.
a unified thing. So, and
Yeah.
with character design, I love that, because what they ask of me is, could you come up with more ideas? Okay, yes, let's go. And that's just
Right.
a lot of fun.
Right. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, for sure. I should try I mean, I'm not good enough to do it yet, but I should maybe try to build that skill set so I could do something like that. That'd be
Absolutely.
fun. It'd be
It
fun to
is
do. I
fun.
would love. Definitely have someone who can help me, you know,
Yes,
help me push
yes.
in the right direction.
Yeah, I have a schoolism course.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I can come to you and be like, now really, now I'll be like, now, see, I know I could come to you and be like, really dig into this and tell me how horrible it is. It's like, I know you give it to me, which would be good.
Yeah, then I'll get burned out doing the feedback.
Yeah, that's right. Justin said we should collaborate on a piece. I should paint one of your designs. That'd be
Mm.
fun.
Oh, that's fun.
That would be fun to do for a stream sometime. That'd be fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, we should. Yeah, because I think that's definitely my weakness is just, I mean, like being able to draw, like there's like from imagination and stuff, like what you do, like the refinement that you have with like how you can express a movement or a particular form or a particular whatever. I mean, whatever it is, like I can't do that. Like the painting skills and like kind of controlling light and stuff, I could do that much more because that's what I've spent more time on. Um,
What's
but I'm trying to build.
interesting, when going back to the subject of confidence, because um when I think of John Navarez and I see him draw, I'm really jealous of that, because he draws like he doesn't care, and while because he does draw like that, he's just
Uh-huh.
enjoying himself, you know
Right.
that even if it's just a scribble, there's
Yeah.
you see the joy, and it's
Mm.
it's it's really weird actually, because you can see how it works. It's just the fun. You see fun on
Right,
paper,
right, right, right.
and you don't even, and of course he has the skills and he can do that
Hmm.
amazingly. But even if it's just a rough scribble, and he doesn't pay attention to all the anatomy and stuff, you can still see the fun. And in a way,
That's
it's
cool.
it's so easy, because
Mhm.
you just have to let go and have fun. But I
Yeah.
I don't have that confidence,
Yeah.
especially drawing in front of a crowd. Uh, for me, um, it's really two different things. When I'm in my studio painting, I'm I kind of I think when you would come in my studio, you wouldn't see me. That's what it feels like for me. It feels like I'm in my painting, in that world,
Right,
doing stuff, and
right,
then after a couple
right.
of hours, I get out of the painting again, and then
That's
I'm
right.
back.
That's
Uh,
right.
but that's different, and that's a process that comes from within. And then
Hmm.
when you're, doing teaching a workshop or doing a demo, then it feels to me like it's really hard for me to go to that place within, because it feels like you're only showing the surface of what drawing is, showing a technique or how you place your brush or
I
anything,
know
and,
what you
and
mean.
it's really
Yeah.
hard for me to, because it takes time, and it takes, you know bad drawings,
That's right.
erasing
That's right.
stuff and trying, and you don't want that
Right.
doing a demo. But that would
Right.
be an honest way of doing a demo.
Right.
Maybe at the end of the demo, there's no good drawing. There's nothing, because that
Right.
happens. So
Right. Totally. Yeah. It's funny. I try to do that on my live stream. Like I stream on Twitch every once in a while, once a week. And I try to do that. Like I literally just make it like a stream of consciousness.
mm,
And it ends up sometimes being really weird and really non-accessible. just and sometimes it's just I'll erase the whole thing like you said. But I like that for that reason. Like I like to use that time that way because it's fun. I can just talk to everybody. It's like this, we can have fun and um you know but it really is sort of like a cathartic, or not cathartic, but like it's like a helpful thing to just sort of sit down and have fun and doodle
mm,
and like you said, just enjoy it. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's
yeah.
I mean, I draw weird. There's some weird stuff. I'll have to show you sometimes, like some weird stuff. Because I would be doing like these texture studies or whatever, things like that when I was first doing those textures, and then they would change into like a weird creature, like,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
they
those.
then
Yeah.
yeah, they have like a like on the stream we had this leather one that turned into this guy named Dave. So like we would bring him back in other streams
Okay.
and like, but it became this really weird, just like very odd. But it's fun to do that stuff. It really is because it's just that's the stuff that my mom's like, I don't get this,
Why did you become an artist?
Well, one time Sam was coming in here and he had his friend. I don't know what I was drawing on the screen. Something that was probably like, had like it was like a weird balloon creature with like blood coming out of it or something. I don't know what it was. And his friend came in. It was something really weird. And his friend comes in, and they're both look at my screen, and he goes, Sam goes to his friend. He goes, "Yep, this is what my dad does for a living." He's like, it's so just
Yeah.
like the kid was just like, "What the heck? I don't
Well,
get this."
I wonder about that sometimes. What it does to a kid, to see his father just drawing and painting crazy creatures and
I
characters all day.
probably, I mean, you know what though? I think it's funny because Sam, I think he could have gone, he's definitely much more like crazy and like kooky now, like, but he could have, when he was younger, he was definitely self-conscious. Like he's getting less and less. He's being more himself. But
Hmm.
I think it actually, for him, it's helped him feel like he acts weird up at the house now. He'll be like, like do something weird like that. And before he would have felt sort of, and kids at school, I've said to him, well, you're being weird. He's like, yeah, I'm weird. He's like, so what, And so, because he's like, my dad's weird, so he can't help but be weird. I think maybe they look at me and they're like, well, I'm not that weird, so
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it makes me feel better.
We
I
know
don't
your
know.
dad, so.
So funny. I probably disturb him on a regular basis. Oh man, that's really funny.
Let's see. So Dan Sartori, thank you. Question: after you give that step of exposing your art in social media, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep going when it's not doing well, not bringing any benefits or growth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I remember that stage. I don't know if you did you have something that you wanted to
no,
say
go
before I
ahead. Go
chime
ahead.
in? Oh, I had that stage early on. And since I was older, I remember it. Um, and to be totally honest, like the way I describe it to students is it's like you're walking through a desert. And that's how I felt when I was like 2 years into my training. I felt like I was walking to the desert and I was looking around and I was just like, why am I doing this again? I'm never gonna get there. My work's horrible. I've spent all this money and time. I moved. I went and studied at this atelier. And I was like, I have every reason to just stop right now. I could. I was like, and nobody would really,
Hmm.
I think make me feel bad for it at that point. And I kind of had a moment where I was like, I could quit if I wanted to. Like I thought to myself, I could quit. And I just made the decision. I just said, I'm just going to keep walking. I was like, even if it
Hmm.
kills me,
Wow. Well,
you
I
know?
think that's good because when I think of it, um, I think it's probably hard nowadays because social media is really about
Yeah,
exposing yourself, showing.
yeah,
And for me, art takes time. Now that I'm painting again, it's really nice because I've taken some time and I can just spend a couple of days working on a painting.
right.
And sometimes a painting just takes time. You need to put it away, come back after a few days,
Yeah,
and uh, being social media is so fast. Every
yeah,
hour you have a new feed, and everything is already gone. So, and it's impossible to keep up in that
right,
pace.
right.
And when I think of it, actually this question made me realize that when I started out, the internet wasn't at all what it is right now.
Right,
So
right.
the way to get noticed, I put these portfolio folders together and I sent them out, and I entered the communication arts contest and those kinds of
Mhm.
things, and I sent it many times, and then one time, they put my illustration
Right,
in there, but a
right,
lot of times, people didn't notice
right.
me, and I would
Yeah,
just travel the country and go to
yeah.
publishers and stuff to physically show them my
Right,
portfolio.
right.
So, and then actually I grew into that whole internet thing with blogs first, and
Hmm.
only a few people had blogs, so I can't really answer that question because I
Right,
really wouldn't
right.
know how it is right now if with everyone being online
Yeah.
posting every day. I can't imagine that must be really intimidating.
I kind of like that's a good question, and I kind of the way I sort of imagine it is like I imagine I imagine like that whole situation like Hollywood, right? So you see like Hollywood in America and everybody has to look a certain way and has to act a certain way and has to be successful and has to have money and so like they have this like persona that they have to keep up. And then you'll see somebody like occasionally that just does not care.
Hmm.
And they come into the room and they're dressed in a t-shirt or whatever they were wearing that day. And people will be like, "Oh, who designed that t-shirt?" And they're like, "I got it at the dollar store." And like they don't care. And I think the key is you use social media for what it will give you and then you leave the rest like like I think the power you have is not caring. So like
Hmm.
if you were like a woman in Hollywood and you always felt like you had to look a certain way or whatever, something like that, post a picture of yourself the ugliest you possibly think you are, like in the morning, like or after you've worked out, like like you're bloated, whatever, like post that picture and say this is what I look like when I'm ugly. And the second you do that, you're like all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have this freedom. Like I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't
it's
have
like the
to.
difference. Am I a follower or am I a leader? If you are a
Right,
leader, you decide what it is that you create, how you do things. There are
right,
all kinds of rules, how often you need to
right.
post, how you beat the
Yeah,
algorithms, all that stuff. But you can also just not care,
right,
like you say.
right,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really the key. I think it sounds funny, but I think the key is not caring. I just saw, Iris, Iris Compete,
Hmm.
I saw her like yesterday. She does sculptures now. Like she does, and they're really cool. Like her sculptures are awesome. And she was painting one, and she reposted it and was just like laughing about it. And she blurred out their name so nobody knew who it was. But somebody posted like, you should just stick to
I
2D.
saw
Like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then she was doing something else with today, and I said, "Oh wait, why are you doing this, Iris?" I was like, "You're supposed to just be sticking with 2D." And she's like, "I'm such a bad girl." And I said, that's why we love you. I was like, "That's why we love you." But that's the thing. She doesn't care. Who cares?
Uh,
Iris is like somebody who's got dreadlocks and purple hair and like sides of her head shaved and like, but then you get to know her and like she doesn't care about like how she's perceived, but she cares a ton about other people. So
mm,
I think you can have it that way. I think you can sort of detach yourself from that side of things. And this is the other side too, is you need to not care about what people are saying good as well. Like people will praise you too much on
mm.
social media as well as because like it's funny, people have said something to me and I'm like about Lightbox or whatever, and I'm like, well guys, I'm like these other artists like legitimately are better than me. Like there's other artists that are like legit, like it's okay, like it's fine. I'm fine with who like, but I'm like, let's just be realistic. I'm at a certain point. I'm doing good. I've got 40 more years to work on it, and like, you know what I mean. Like, but don't go too far. And you know what I mean. Like, so there's people that just trash your work, and there's nothing you can do is it makes them happy. So, but I think honestly, the key to existing in that space is do your thing and just don't care.
Yeah,
Um,
because I think when you create something for yourself because you love doing it, I noticed that, sometimes I post something and, it's I don't get so many reactions
right,
or people don't like it, but I like that. It's
right,
for me it's an important piece. And another
yeah,
thing that I don't care about, people love it, but you feel it when it's honest and it's important to you, then it doesn't matter actually. So,
right,
it's really all about trying to find that place within where you are at your best, where you can express yourself the way you are, the way you feel, the way
right,
what you believe in,
right,
what you want to express. And
right,
then it really doesn't matter. And if you let the things people say or how many likes it get, if you let
right.
that lead the way, then people actually are in control of you.
It's true. It's real. That's that. See, he's got the nuggets of wisdom, guys. You got to be writing these things down. It's true. It's totally true. Like people are. You're right. They're the ones in control, and it's so funny. But the other thing too, you have to remember about social media is like it's not even necessarily what you posted. Like it could just be like a confluence of certain events that like this thing got featured because this other person posted and that was trending. And so ended up with, because of that hashtag being a part of this or that, like something weird, like can cause that. It doesn't, so you can't really put a lot of like too much stock in it because it's like, it could have been a little bit of a fluke. Like you could have been like the reason that this one image is like gets a lot of people responding and this other one doesn't necessarily mean that
Mm.
one is worse or better than the other. It could be a number of different events and like you said, maybe the group of people that are responding, maybe they don't have the greatest taste, like
Yeah,
maybe,
that's right.
I mean, maybe they don't. Like if you're in a room full of coffee drinkers and you talk about wine or something, I mean, not that that's or tea. You talk about tea. Let's say that, like a bunch of coffee drink, and like they're not going to really care. It doesn't mean that
Mm.
tea's bad. It just means you're in a room full of coffee
Yeah, yeah,
drinkers, and so it's they're just going to be like, whatever. So that tends to happen, and I think that's why I like seeing artists like you doing what you're doing, and like Iris, like when she's done a bunch of 2D stuff, she has a bunch of people following her that are doing 2D stuff, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to do sculpting. I'm post a whole bunch about all these sculpts I'm doing, and people are like, I don't like this. You should be doing what you did before. And she's like, screw that. Like I'm going to do
yeah,
whatever I want,
yeah.
and everyone else is like, yeah, it's great. So yeah, you can't. I think that's the superpower is just not
Mm.
caring, and
Yeah.
ironically,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it also made me think of something Aaron Blaise said. He was talking about, let me think, um, not being really fixed on where you want to end up. Like, I want to be a
Right.
character designer because he said, be open to where life takes you. And I
That's
think
right.
what's really good about that approach is that way you can start with what you are really interested in. So,
Right.
for me, as I mentioned, I love, coming up with new ideas. We could do it like this or like this.
Right.
That's that's really something that I love. And when I understand that's how it works for me, then right now it's character design where I can, but where I can do that. But maybe, now with this whole crisis and stuff, maybe Hollywood collapses, no more movies being made. I don't know, but
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that this is what I love, and maybe another opportunity opens up, and then I can still have fun because I focus on what's important to me and not
Exactly.
on that job title. And I think that was
That's right.
a good thing that he mentioned. And
Yeah.
so everything we were saying is basically coming down to knowing who you are
Right.
and harnessing that and focusing on developing where your strength is, what you love, and doing that, and
Totally.
making your decisions based on that, because that's where you're at your best, where you can also have the most impact on other people, help people the
Exactly.
best. Because if you try to be someone else, how can you inspire someone by who you are?
Exactly. Like, and nobody gets inspired by someone who like played the game really well, Like that's kind of like how it is in politics, right? It's just disgusting whenever you talk about politics because it's like the person doesn't even necessarily believe what they're saying. It's just like that's a tactic.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that like and they don't even talk about it anymore. Like this is what the person actually believes. They're just like, at least on our news, it's like that was a great tactic. It's like
Yeah.
no one's saying like that person really believes this, like
Mm.
no one cares
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, so it's it can be like that in the art world, and it can, and the more commercial things become, the more it's like kind of
Yeah.
forces you into that,
That's right. Yeah.
and so like you got to flirt with it, you got to do that side of it, like you said, like you've got to, like everybody to a certain degree to pay their bills like has to do, you don't always get to do, you just can't have like a
Of
dream
course.
life,
Yeah.
where you just do whatever you want to do, unless you want to live in a really like tiny shed and just live off like which is fine. Like some people don't care, some people really want to do that, and that's good,
Well,
and
yeah, but no, I think Benjamin Björklund, the
oh
painter,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think uh, I think he just took on a job beside his art because he wants to have
right,
a life
right,
that inspires him, so he has something to paint about, and then that's
exactly,
where he makes his money, and he has total freedom in his art.
yeah,
So, it's
yeah,
it's just whatever your priority is.
yeah, yeah. I've got to go probably in a couple minutes,
Yes,
Wouter.
let's see if we have another question, and
Yeah,
then
let's do a couple more questions and then we'll be done. Yeah. My wife's right here. We were just talking about wives. She came down to my studio. She's coming to get me. But we were talking about how Wouter and I were both talking about how important our wives were to our artistic path and career. She goes, "Hmm." I love it. I love it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Did you?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
let me see. Um, are there methods to loosen up before you start painting? When I'm not confident, I use layers and careful steps to proceed. Working this way makes my serious painting look lifeless.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Um. So, yeah, I think that really resonates with me because that like we learned a method when we studied at the atelier. Like we learned a very specific way to do it. Like you do the block in this way, and then I like to teach people that methodology, but then I like to tell them to break the rules as well. But I think it does come down to what we were talking about, like confidence. I think you have to be able to color outside the lines, So typically what happens is people are not willing to deviate from that process because the outcome is not going to be what they want. But when you first try something new, it's not going to have a great outcome. It's just not going to. So what I always encourage people to do is like have like a couple paintings. If you want to try to loosen up, like have a couple, and you're trying to get to that point, but you're not there yet. Like, do a couple paintings in a week that you just like don't care. Like, you're gonna wipe it off afterwards, no matter what. You're gonna wipe it off, and so just do like 3 or 4 of those paintings a week or something, or drawings or whatever, and then just try stuff. Like, just try stuff, or do a master copy and see how someone else who is really really expressive, like, try to think about like how did they actually achieve that. And then it forces you to work in a completely different way than you've ever done. Like, you'll be like, well, it looks like they did it in this order, and it'll totally throw you for a loop. So I don't know, I like to do that, get out of
Yeah,
my head.
it's always I think most artists deal with this. When you do a little sketch, it has so much life, and then when you
Hmm.
go do the painting, you have the expensive canvas and the
That's
paint, and
yeah,
and then
totally.
it needs to, and because you're focused on the end result then, and
Yeah,
painting really is a journey, and now it's a difficult thing when you're working for a client, or you want to create a painting that you want to sell, because there is, the end result is important.
that's right.
So what I would advise is, because it says my serious paintings. So,
Mm.
if you make the distinction between, just having fun painting, exploring, and a serious painting, then that kind of limits you to the
Right.
way you are creating that painting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I understand that it's difficult within an
Yeah.
assignment or a job,
Right.
but if it's just for yourself, then I would try just, uh, use the non-expensive canvas and brushes and paint, and
Right.
just, have fun exploring, because
Yeah.
at least for me, I work on the cheapest cardboard now, the very cheapest cardboard,
I love
because
it.
I'm not paying to create high art. I
Right.
just want to
Right.
learn something. I just want to have
That's right.
fun, and
That's right.
so, uh, you know, and that worked for me,
Totally.
and it's much cheaper also,
I know. I know.
because
It's true.
it's not like, it's not in the material, and I could do the same thing on expensive canvases as well, but this works for now. I put 3 layers of gesso on it, so
That's right. That's right.
it's good enough.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and it helps me also. It's the very same thing, because if it doesn't work, I have to throw it away. It's just
Right.
a cheap piece of cardboard, and
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
I'm painting it for the process. So that might be a way to approach it also. Just you
And then
know
in the future, like 100 years from now, all like there's going to be someone at a museum. They're going to be like, "We're having a lot of trouble. Keep do it on cardboard, and we've been trying to conserve it, but it keeps deteriorating."
Yeah. Like the Degas pastel drawings. They put in the dark cave. Light has to be can hit
That's
it.
right.
Okay, so I think that the connection is breaking up. Maybe
Actually, a
that's
little bit of. Oh wait.
yeah.
Oh, there. I got you back now. I think
Okay,
maybe.
yeah. Maybe
There,
that's a signal.
there we
We
go.
need to
That's
end
that's
this.
right. That's right. That was close. It slowed down, and then
Yeah.
it came back. So.
Yes. Well, great talking to
Awesome.
you. Um,
You too, man.
yeah. Thank you very
It's
much.
awesome. Good questions
Uh,
too, guys.
yes. Very
Yeah, they were
nice.
good.
Um,
And we'll do it again, man. We can do this again.
we can do this again.
You
And
know?
next Wednesday, I am doing this again. I'm talking with Loish then.
Nice.
So
Oh,
that
nice.
will be the
Nice.
next session.
I want to tune in for that. That's gonna be good. I'll
Cool.
be in the chat. I'll be in the chat
Yes.
side. Like, it's gonna
Cool. Well, and thank you very
awesome.
much. You have been a great help. It was great talking to you. And
You too, man. You too, man. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for the good questions, and
thanks for
I'll hang.
joining in, everyone.
I'll hang on with you a little bit after you shut it
Yes.
down. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
see
Take it
you
easy.
all next time. Thank you for checking in, and I'll see you soon.